Hello, travel biz owner. Welcome to my corner of the travel industry, the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. If you're ready to have fun, be inspired, get clarity, and take action in your travel business, then you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. Really nice to have you here today. We have another wonderful guest with us who we've been connected, I think, almost a year-ish now through the LinkedIn community, the power of LinkedIn connecting travel advisors who did not know each other previously. I think we met through somebody in the speaking world, actually. And her name is Amy FloYo, or if you see in some of her marketing, she goes by Amy FloYo. And she has just done really inventive things on LinkedIn that I wanted to share, not only on LinkedIn, but just like messaging in her travel business. So without further ado, thank you, Amy, for being on the podcast today.
Of course, Rita, always happy to connect with you.
Yes. And full disclosure for everyone, we are both in the same space. We both have a big focus on retreats, but Amy focuses on land and I focus on cruise. And whenever anybody asks me, like yesterday, I was in a networking event and they were like, do you do land? And I'm like, no, but I have somebody for it. Because I'm like, I don't want to touch those really.
Yeah, it's like, as you know, yes, very different. And I'm the same way. I'm like, no, I really don't know how that would pull off. I think you should talk to Rita.
Yeah, exactly. So give us a little bit of background. How did you get into the travel industry and what do you currently do?
Sure. Well, I come with over 2 decades of nonprofit executive background,
No
actually.
way.
And my daughter is severely disabled. And when I transitioned home with her to be her full-time caregiver, and as she transitioned into adulthood,
Mhm.
um, it was kind of, okay, now
Right.
now what am I going to do going from high level, speaking and strategic planning and all of those things. So travel has always been the passion for us.
Okay.
It's because when you live in a medical home, it's a very different family dynamic and relationship.
Okay.
And for us, travel was really where we connected as a traditional quote unquote family. It was
Oh,
always in our travels
wow.
because that's when everything else goes away. So
Interesting.
where most people is like, home is their sanctuary. For
Right.
us, it's the opposite. Home's where all the work is. So when we travel, that was our sanctuary. And that's really what built our family relationship. So I started my travel business, really, and it's still a specialty, but of course, specializing in travel for people with severe disabilities and chronic health needs.
Mm-hmm.
Was kind of a niche that I had for quite a while because I became that go-to person of,
Right.
how are you doing this? How do you take her all over the place? What do you do?
Right.
And everybody kept saying, you should do this. You should do this. But as you know, giving advice and suggestions is very different from being responsible
Right.
for
Right.
someone's actual,
Mm-hmm.
actual end result of their trip.
Right.
Um, But yeah, the opportunity arose like I said, when I left nonprofit world and transitioned home full time. And when the pandemic hit, because I have a background in, I was a national trainer, keynote speaking, all of those things. Everybody said,
Oh,
oh, are you going to go
wow.
virtual? Are you going to go virtual? And I said, no, like, I'm not going to help people with virtual events. That's not my thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the in-person person. There
Right.
is something magical that truly can't be replicated
Right.
in that in-person shared travel experience. And it's that relationship building within those that travel, as well as how they find, I want to say, like, their larger place in the world by realizing how small they are in the
Mm-hmm.
world. It's that type of experience that I like to bring to my clients.
Love that. So this also kind of spurred out from the pandemic, like focusing more on the retreat niche.
Yeah, well, exactly. So it kind of just organically grew
Mm-hmm.
because I was, had the travel business up and running.
Right.
And as you know, you start networking, you start talking to people, and just realized there was a huge disconnect between,
Right.
as you know, because you work in the retreat space as well,
Right.
um, people saying they were doing retreats, but they were really just doing a group travel trip.
Right.
It wasn't
Right.
intentional. It didn't have the meaningful outcome, the transformation portion that, could have been added in.
Right.
And then hearing from so many kind of that coach and consultant space, so many of them not making any money on it,
Mm-hmm.
not understanding the liabilities of doing it,
Right.
those types of things. So I started giving advice on that and working with those people, again, making sure it was strategically a fit in their business, not
Mm-hmm.
just, oh, I want to travel, so let's do a retreat.
Right.
So, because again, my background in strategic planning and group work and development, so that kind of came into my travel business. And that's how
I
I got
love
into that
that.
retreat space. So I work with a lot of clients who might have been doing some virtual stuff or have great content. I don't want to call it a great program, but
Right.
how do you take this great workbook or business strategy or whatever it is that you have in your space and in
Take it
massage it?
offline.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
well, and massage it to make it a retreat, not just a conference work
Yes.
program,
Yes.
and right, and strategically, how does it fit into your business? What's the intent? So we work on that whole, let's build out your repeatable retreat structure,
Mm-hmm.
right? So some people just need that and then they're keeping it local or they have their own space and then that's fine.
Right.
Other people then say, great, now how do I take it somewhere
Yes.
exciting and different?
Yes.
And so it's not just the logistics, it's also developing that, more than an agenda, but really developing that true intentional outcome. So they have a clear direction in what they're doing with their clients, what they're inviting them
Mm-hmm.
to next. A lot of people, that's it. They do this great retreat, and I call it like the big ask at the end.
Uh-huh.
Like they don't know how to invite them to work with them further. And like that's where the money's not in
Interesting.
the retreat per se. Of
Right.
course, we want you to be profitable,
Right.
but the money is because when you've done something like that, there's a loyalty and a connection and a relationship.
Huge.
So how do
Huge.
you continue to keep those people as clients or partners or whatever? So
Right.
again, there's a big strategy piece behind the planning of it as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah. And not a lot of people think about that. I feel like we could
I
talk
know.
about like the retreat aspect, but kind of going into, I guess it was a month or so ago that I saw and I don't know how long you've been utilizing the word travel personal assistant. And when I had seen that post, I was like, this is brilliant. Because especially when you're talking about that your ideal clients are coaches, consultants, strategists, that's what they know. Like they might not necessarily have known that they needed a travel agent, a travel advisor, but a personal assistant who specializes in travel, yes. So
Yeah.
talking about like immediately speaking to your market, I like ears perked up because we're in similar markets. And so what kind of like drove you to start utilizing that term in your marketing?
Yeah, and we're tweaking it. We continue to tweak it as we all
Yes.
do, right? Any
Yes.
entrepreneur continues to
Love
tweak
it.
it. And it was exactly, how do people understand this? Because especially in the travel field,
Mm-hmm.
the word concierge is way overused.
Right.
And it's an appropriate word, right? What we do is concierge. Concierge is ask and deliver.
Right.
And that is the level at which I know at least, not all, but that we function at
Right.
is we handle it. You say, I need XYZ, and we give you ABC XYZ.
Right.
Right? We put it all together and hand it to you on a plate. That is concierge service. But in the travel world, as you know, like the word concierge is used so much that I think people don't understand what it really means.
Right.
The feedback was concierge means only luxury,
Mm-hmm.
or it's going to be expensive, or I don't, and then those DIY people, which so many of my clients are, those highly capable, I don't know how else to describe it, right? Those highly capable, high achieving
Right.
people, they don't feel they need that.
Right.
So it was, what's another word? How do we say this? Because and I'm sure anyone who's been in travel for more than a minute, we still get travel agents are still a thing.
Right.
Oh, right. Like, that's a whole other podcast.
Right.
Yeah. And so I started, because I work and my ideal client really is that entrepreneur, that small business that doesn't have a corporate team supporting them.
Right.
So people who are experienced enough and are established enough that they probably maybe hired a PA, personal assistant, a VA, virtual assistant.
Exactly.
Type. They understand those words. Oh, someone who just takes it and reports back, right?
Yes.
So
Even that term, travel virtual assistant.
Yeah. So we started using TA, and that was kind of that post. If you have a PA, VA, do you need a TA? Some people think technical assistance, but of course for us it was travel assistant.
Right.
So, and it's just been interesting. I've gotten so much feedback that people are like, but what you do is so much more than task management assistant.
Than an assistant.
They were like,
yes.
You're the chief travel officer. You should be like calling it a different thing. But
right.
like you said, it's the language that makes sense to a lot of people. If you are flying regularly, just whether it's, to conferences, from conferences, going to see clients, bringing clients to you. I have a lot of clients who don't travel at that much, but I'm managing bringing all their clients to them.
Right.
So that's something, it's both sides of that. So it makes more sense to them using that language.
And that kind of trickles down to going in how you name yourself, but then your fee structure, because your fee structure, I think, is very unique for this specific market. So would you say like your travel assistant fees are different than like planning somebody's family vacation to a theme park or whatnot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very different. Yeah, because they're just completely different animals.
Right.
When we do a fee for a typical travel, a vacation, it's a one-off for that item. If it's a European adventure, it's usually about $100 a day if we're creating your itinerary, right? So that's $700, $800, $900, $1,000, depending on what needs to be built out for them.
Right.
And for the entrepreneurial or small business, whatever we're calling it, I have personal travelers too, who just travel a lot and they don't want to deal with it. And how it came about is so many people thought they were being helpful and trying to give me business and saying, will you book my flight? And as you know, there's no commissions on booking flights.
Right.
And that's the biggest headache of everything we do.
Right.
Flight management, to the point where, in my experience, less than 50% of the agents I know will even touch your flights.
Right.
Unless it's part of a larger package, right? That's supplemented in. Right. They're always like, okay, here's your trip. Let me know your flights and I'll put it in the itinerary. So many agents don't even touch flights. But I was getting a lot of requests, and a lot of the retreat people I work with, they might not need me to build out their location, if you will. But they wanted someone to support their travelers in getting there. So I was charging, depending on the flight and the day, all of it, but it was $150 to $300 just to book a flight.
Okay, that makes sense though.
Like to manage a flight for someone. So the fee structure for the ongoing travel assistance, it's a monthly retainer, for lack of a better way to think about it, but it's a monthly fee that gives you access to me and my assistants to handle your bookings.
Right. And I loved it and how you structured it, that it's like entry level support. And then if you want to be planning an event, but
Right, it
then
goes
also
up.
if you want both of those and you're traveling frequently or having people brought to you frequently, that's a whole other tier.
Right. So for the individual,
Mm-hmm.
it's $150 to $200 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So some months they might not be traveling, but they're still paying versus
Right.
saying, oh, you've got 3 flights this month and 2 flights this month and no flights this month, right? Entrepreneurs want steady income and expenses,
Right.
right? They don't want to be hit with an $800 bill one month and $100 bill the next month or whatever.
Right.
So it's and it's ongoing access.
Right. Because that's, I was going to ask, especially in the retreat planning mode when we go into your second tier, because I know at least for on the cruise side for me, I am super busy in the first beginning stages and super busy at the last stages right before sailing. And
Yeah,
in between, there's not much happening.
right.
So have like people combated like I'm paying this monthly fee, but nothing's happening this month.
Sometimes, but it's also being clear in the communication up front because
Okay.
that's also a piece. So again, there's the individual,
Yes.
and then there's the teams. Because so if you have yourself and you bring your production person and your video person or whatever, and so I'm managing more than one person's travel, there's the
Hmm.
team fee. So that kind of chalks it up a notch.
Right.
Or if you're an individual and you're doing, I call them, most people might call them retreats, but more like mastermind intensives. Usually they're domestic.
Hmm.
And so it's just like getting a hotel type of conference space, that type of
Right.
a thing, but they want it in some type of destination,
Right.
right? So they might be doing 2 or 3 of those a year. So that's kind of goes to that middle tier where we're just sourcing locations and then helping everybody get there.
Right.
Um, and then there's the highest tier, which is basically all of that, and then truly working on usually 2 events, retreats that are international, more in depth,
Hmm.
that's true, the event planning. So they understand that if they were to hire us to just do that retreat piece,
Hmm.
like it's usually whatever, $3,000
Okay.
for us to manage and plan. So they understand that, oh, this is being broken down into monthly payments.
Yes.
They, a one-off, and that's what I say, it's better to do the monthly retainer service,
Right.
and then you have not unlimited, but you have a certain amount versus a one-off fee, which is much higher.
Right.
Yeah, so that's how it came to be, is my retreat clients who were doing 2 or 3 events annually.
Hmm.
I was then helping them with like their speaker bookings or whatever else they had. Because for me, once you're a
Nice.
client, you're a client.
Right.
It's not, again, I don't, okay, I'm going to invoice you for that. I'm going to invoice you for that. Like, I don't work that way.
Right.
It's if you need something, we're here. Again, that's that concierge level
Right.
of where we came from.
Because it makes me think of coaching also, in a sense that that's how coaching works, is that it's a monthly fee every single month.
mhm. Yeah, but we're not, yeah,
We're not
we're
coaches.
not coaching. And where it came, and it also where it came from is, and again, it comes to educating your audience,
Right.
where in a good way, like I said, I love that you do the cruises because cruises are commissionable.
Right.
Not that there's not a lot of work associated with group planning. We all know group planning as a whole. Ugh.
Right.
But you have that, I don't know how to say it, like backup of income, where I have to educate so many of what we source for people, what
Hmm.
they're looking for is that little out of the way private villa. It's not commissionable. So people have to, they think, oh, well, you're booking this $50,000 event. And I'm like, yeah. And so my revenue is very high. Like we get a
Right.
lot of money in, but we spend
Right.
a lot of money out. Um,
Yes.
and again, it was a big education piece is we don't get money for booking your flights. I,
Yes.
I don't get a kickback when booking a private chef. I don't get
Right.
a kickback from the castle in Ireland.
You have to
That's
mark it all up.
exactly. So you pay this monthly fee, and it's also, so therefore, because they are paying for our service,
Mm-hmm.
I am not biased in any way as to where I send them or
Right.
where I hook them up.
Right.
And
Eh,
that's what I was seeing in a lot of the retreat planning world. Like I said, it was group travel packages.
Okay. So kind of like preset, like this is what I can book you, and
Right,
that's what
like where
it's gonna be.
they have their, I mean, we all have them. We have our favorite, suppliers and connections in different countries that we
Right.
work. So rather than looking at the intentionality and the outcome and what's going to be the best fit, it's, oh, well, I have this resort that's kind of small that will do this because they knew it was commissionable.
See, and that's why part of why I love charging fees is that for me, it's also exactly what you were saying. Like they have hired me and I have to do what's in their best interest, not what's in the best interest of XYZ supplier that I work really well with. If it doesn't fit with the client, then I need to go another direction.
Right. Right. Of course. Yeah, exactly. We always start with what we know and where we know
Mm-hmm.
most, where we're most comfortable dealing with. No, and again, that's because we know we're going to get good customer service and they're going to communicate quickly and but you're right. If that's not a real fit,
Mm-hmm.
if they're looking to do some good wellness stuff and we know that they don't have like, oh, well, we can clean out our conference room, and you like, that's not really the type
Right.
of room location we want to do for some like quiet, reflective wellness
Exactly.
healing work, you know. um yeah,
Very
so
much
that's,
so.
yeah,
Because
so
that kind of goes into the whole education piece and educating people what we do. And I think you do a really good job of that on LinkedIn. I'm trying to break out a little bit more. And I think the post that I had last week that resonated with a lot of fellow travel business owners, where like we are not the Wikipedia of travel. If
right.
you want to Wikipedia something, then go Wikipedia, go Google it. But
Hmm.
that is not the purpose of working with a travel business owner.
Exactly, and that's what it's, again, I think people think they're being helpful. I want to go to Nashville, can you help? Yeah,
Mm,
but the same thing. Like again, like I don't know, you tell me, but not a lot's gonna pop up as like commissionable and bonus for me to get you a Marriott in Nashville, right? Like, or
right.
whatever. So it's like, sure, I would love to get you to Nashville. That's $400 itinerary fee.
Hmm.
But if you've already Googled top 10 places to hang and did like all those things, you don't, right? Like you don't need us. Like that's
Right.
what I'm saying. And I tell people, like, maybe you've seen some of my little mantras are, you don't need me to book your crappy vacation.
I love that.
I flat out tell people, like, I am never going to be cheapcaribbean.com.
Yeah,
Go for it.
right. Right. I recently had a client who had me book, and I hate like even saying this, but he had me book his family of 8 Spirit airfare tickets. And I was like, are you sure you want, like, I will, if that's what you want, I will book it. But like, they nickel and dime and all these different things.
Mhm.
And the other day he called me and was like, I bleeping hate Spirit, but they are the most affordable for my family right now because it would
Right.
cost me X amount more.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, that's why it's the difference that it is
Right.
between a
And that's,
Spirit and a
and again,
Delta.
exactly. And anything that's under 4 hours, I might give Spirit a try, but for anything longer, right? It's not comfortable. Um,
Right.
and and that's what, what do you have for deals? I'm like, there is no inventory left. No
Right.
one's posting deals like they
Right.
used to, right? You used to be able to get the 30% off and the this and the that and the fly free
Mm-hmm.
because they were trying to pull people in.
Right.
Demand is so high now.
Right.
I'm not gonna, anyone who calls and says like, well, what's a good deal, or when do you think's the best time to go? That tells me they're not ready to buy.
Right.
Right? Like in a lot of travel, people, like I said, if you've been in more than a minute, you've learned how to set boundaries around those calls. Like you were
Right.
saying, someone message, I get a text and right? Like,
Well,
um,
somebody in one of the groups recently posted that they were really proud a family member had come to them wanting to plan some trip. I don't know, I don't remember where it was, and said, okay, my planning fee is $250 to book the group for you and to get things started. And the cousin came back and didn't realize that there was a payment and said, let me get back with the group because I don't want like to have to pay something that's really on my tight budget right now. I think it was like Dubai, because a lot of people were commenting like, if you can't afford $250 like
you
for
don't go to Dubai. I was like,
how are you
Dubai,
gonna
I
go
would
to
have started my
Dubai?
fee at like 650. That is not an easy
Right.
country to plan. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that I think like that's part of it too. Like people think like, well, just start working and doing things for them. And that there's no,
Yeah.
I think like that's been a big transformation like in my business the past couple years is your travel business is unique and individual to you, your needs, and your clients' needs, which means your marketing strategy needs to be the same. If you're done trying every marketing tactic out there with no avail, then it's time to join us in Marketing Business School. A community of your fellow peers is waiting to support you in your entrepreneurial journey. Receive a monthly marketing education session from yours truly, along with a process party to finally work on those workflows and SOPs, and a Tech Talk Q&A session. To get in on the action, head on over to travelbiztraining.com to enroll today. Somebody comes to talk with me, we have a call, I see how I work, what my planning fee is for the specific trip, and then I send them an invoice and I send them an agreement, and I don't start anything until those both are signed back electronically.
Yep. And have I lost business because of that? Absolutely. And
Yep.
am I totally okay with that? Absolutely.
Yep.
Because again, early on, and again, and things were different 4 or 5 years ago, right? It, I get a lot because again, we're in a lot of networks and oh, does anybody know a travel advisor? And everybody, oh, Amy FloYo, and I don't comment on those. If you're not posting,
Right.
I'm looking to travel in June and my budget is 12K, but you're not ready to book. Like,
Right.
and
Right.
that's and again, and understanding, yes, you can totally DIY it.
Right.
Well, all of this is available. Yep. Again, cheapcaribbean.com, go for
Right.
it.
Go do
But
it.
don't call me and ask me which of these 3 resorts is going to be up to my standards.
Right.
The same thing for, Europe or whatever. Yeah, it's all, get on Expedia and get a flight. It's all on there.
Right.
That's great.
And being
But
comfortable and being able to say that, because I know when I was first starting in the biz, I would not have been comfortable to be like, yeah, go, because you just want all the business to come to you.
right.
But I think there comes a point that you're like, no.
But yeah, by working, and I want to call it bad business. Because like I like when I joke, like, you don't need me to book your crappy vacation. I still, we'll still book that all-inclusive package, like an easy trip to book, right? But what happens is when you start catering to everyone without the boundaries of charging a fee, again, we don't charge a fee for everything. Like I said, if I'm doing it easy, all inclusive, and I'm going to get a commission on that, like that's fine, great. Yep, happy to do it. Happy to help you, and again, help you pick the right resort with the right bed styles and the right room setup. That's another thing too. Like,
Right.
oh, we're all going to share one room, and I'm like, it's only $100 more because it's all inclusive. Yeah, you're paying per person, not per room. Like things like that, right? Like if you need that information, but by catering to all those types of, well, that's a little bit more. Can you get us a deal? What about this? You attract more of those clients because that's how they're going to talk about you to their friends.
Right.
In their referrals. I said, I'm for the person who is highly capable and totally knows how to do it, just doesn't want to.
Right.
And understands the value of hiring out. Just like my dryer broke, super easy fix. I heard the belt snap, everything stopped. Could I totally have gone to the appliance store and YouTubed it right? And figured out how to do that? Absolutely.
Right.
I didn't want to. I called the guy.
Yep.
I came
I
with a
use
new
the,
belt, and in 20 minutes, it was done.
and kind of like going off of that too, they are charging, I think, $100 per hour, regardless if they're there for the 20 minutes or the full hour. It's still going to be $100 or whatever their fee is.
Right.
It usually starts at $100 an hour.
Yep. Exactly.
And
And
they have
that's
no problem charging.
no. And that's what so my ideal client and the people that I really love to work with
Hmm.
are those people who,
Right.
again, have hired out, and they understand that. I had one woman who, the like straw that broke the camel's back, that finally called to get on the retainer service,
Mm.
was on the phone for 4 hours on a Saturday,
Hmm.
and with one airline, and then had to fix it, and then had to then call the transportation company
Oof.
to adapt, whatever. And she was like, yeah, did I totally get it done? Was it difficult?
Hmm.
No. She's like, but it took 4 hours of my time on a Saturday.
Right.
I'm over it.
Right.
Here's the trip. Here's my next trip. Take it over and go for it. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So when you are planning like sales and revenue goals, do you take like these retainer clients as part of that? Like, do you have goals that you want to have X amount of retainer clients?
My sales goals are only on my retainer clients. My one-off trips are my extra.
Your
Because
bone.
I don't I do a lot of, I do a good handful of them, like looking at my little files over there. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I do a good handful of them. And lately everybody's calling, I don't know about you, everybody's calling about Europe. I had
Mm.
6 calls this week about Europe itineraries.
Okay.
And it's the same thing. How many again, but for those out there listening, family of 4, you're gonna start at least 10 to 12K for 3-star accommodation.
Right. Right. Because
So don't
that,
call me if that's not in your butt. And then and then she said, well, what other country might be more affordable? That's not my choice. I get like, and I did some quick looking at,
hmm.
usually because we're in Boston, so we can get to Ireland usually pretty cheap.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Ireland, Dublin, there's always a flight to Dublin leaving Boston. So I
Hmm.
was like, well, and I looked and I was like, nope, even that, even that's going to start and they were like, oh yeah, that's over budget.
And you
Okay,
need to adjust the budget.
right. But but they were all, oh yeah, we're going to do this, and we want to do this, and
Hmm.
and I was like, that's flying into the city, staying in one hotel,
Right.
not launching out into the Highlands and popping over here, and you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, you can fly into Lisbon, stay there for
Right.
5 days, 10 to 12K.
Right. Right. And I love that you have those retainer clients as like your base.
Yeah.
Because even like I myself have been trying to see like how I'm gonna do the travel business a little bit differently this year because my focus is a little bit different this year. And I feel like that is also possible for a certain client on the leisure end. So for certain travel business owners who
Right.
don't specialize in B2B but would rather do leisure clients, I feel like there would be a market that people, because I know that a lot of people will charge like a couple $1,000. This is the flat fee to like be in my either travel club or to
Right.
be on my VIP service. But
Mhm.
I feel like almost monthly is a little bit more attainable. Have you seen any other like fellow travel business owners doing that, but on the leisure
Yeah, on the
end?
leisure side, yes.
Hmm.
And again, it does tend to be my travel friends who are in an all luxury space. They're not booking their typical trip. I
Hmm.
would say their median, what they're booking is 20 to 30K a
Right.
trip to start, right?
Right.
These are the ones that are doing the 2-month cruise. Like they're,
Right.
that kind of stuff. And people are paying to be in their membership.
Right.
They're doing it, yeah, again, like a membership service. And that's kind of what it is. They're paying
For the
to
access.
the access to you, um, and that you're only going to take 20 members
Hmm.
or whatever it is at that rate.
Hmm.
Yep.
And just focus on those trips.
Yep.
Love
because
it. Kind
they don't want you to be distracted. They're paying for you again to be on call. It's that type of service. Yep.
right, which that type of clientele is already used to. I'm sure that they have probably a big property that they reside in. And so they have different services. They have the lawn service, pool service, somebody that's cleaning the house. They may have somebody like preparing meals in some capacity.
Right.
They may have like a personal assistant, like a house manager already
Yeah.
taking care of those things. So they're
Mhm.
already paying for things. It's a more of a how can I, it's not, I feel like, how can I charge this? It's more, where can you find people that you can charge that type
Right.
of
And it's
service
not
to?
just the lifestyles of the rich and famous people. Like it's
Right.
not just, but people who are right, who, yes, are, I want, how do we say this? That are successful at a certain level.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know advisors that charge, like 1,500 a year. So
Hmm.
it's only, $100 a month. It's not these high $1,000 a month memberships.
Right.
Um, but yeah, they're doing it. Yeah, the club, join the club.
Yes. Yes.
And, but that's what it is. It's a VIP membership.
Right. Right. And kind of like if we are going to be talking about where those people are, I would say LinkedIn is a big source of where those people are hanging out at in terms of social media.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree. People
Hmm.
who, um, and that's why my main platform
Hmm.
is, has transitioned so much into LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, I still do leisure clients, um, but like, but uh, most of the people I'm working with now, yeah, have come more from the LinkedIn referrals,
Hmm.
the people I've met there. Um, yeah, and I think and they in general, again, they're just savvier. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah.
They're savvier, um, which is a blessing and a curse, right? Is Yeah,
Yes.
they're savvier. So I say this with love to those of you listening in the travel industry. Um, they're savvier, so you have to be really good at what you do.
Yes.
There's a lot of people out there who start in leisure theme park
Hmm.
travel,
Hmm.
um, and start building their book of business through traditional suppliers, right? Whatever,
Hmm.
right? Like you have to have a certain level of experience and understanding
Hmm.
before you adapt that model. That's all. I just people go, oh yeah, that sounds great. I'm going to start a VIP club. Um,
Right.
yeah,
Right. Because I think like a big part of being on LinkedIn too is, and this is what I always tell people, is that you have to put out amazing content to make yourself, to position yourself as the leader in whatever niche it is that you do specialize in, or whoever it is that you work with, so that when they do come to you, schedule a coffee chat, it's not like you're faltering in conversation. Like they already know and they have like really specific questions on
right,
what you can do. And either they're ready to proceed now or they want to keep the relationship going and they'll be ready at a later time.
right. And that's exactly they're coming to the table with expectations.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
From either what they have seen on LinkedIn through you or through somebody else, or just having connected or just being in,
Or
because especially in the like coaching consultant business, like this is not their first rodeo. There's a lot of people who are doing similar things.
exactly. And that's it too, whether or not they've seen your content or however they came across to get in contact with you,
Hmm.
they are making um valid assumptions. We hate to use
Right.
that word, but right, they're making valid assumptions that if you are calling yourself this VIP travel club, VIP
Right.
membership, whatever, that you are operating and regularly booking 50 plus $1,000 trips.
Right. Right. And I would even say, because I remember a couple episodes ago, I was talking about cold versus warm. I would say that while some people on LinkedIn might be cold to you, it's more of a warmer audience than somebody on Facebook or on Instagram because I feel like LinkedIn is so much more of a community than some of the other
Right.
platforms
And you
because you
get
have so
a
much more
peek behind the
access.
curtain on your profile, much
Right.
more than on another platform.
Right.
Right. And I want to say like fault me or not, but yeah, my website's okay. We're doing some revamping. There's some stuff happening, but
Hmm.
I don't do SEO cold that like my website is there. So
Hmm.
when somebody on LinkedIn wants the validation or on,
Right. Pretty
that's what it's
much.
there
Yeah.
for. It's not there to get cold leads.
Right.
And I know that's just a different perspective as, you know, to
Well, and
other people.
I think it's very important to note also because, I've done the whole rebranding thing before and kind of finding that the people, at least that I service a lot, and maybe it's just I need to tweak. I'm not really sure, but I have fun making relationships with people and then they can check it like it's the almost the Wikipedia of my business that they can go onto my website,
Right.
but they
It's just
already have a relationship with me and they feel good about me.
correct. It's just the social, what's the word? Social capital or um, there's a word for it, and it's just sorry, totally escaping me now.
Oh.
But that verification of okay, she's legit or whatever.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
in 10 years, I don't think I've ever had a cold outreach ever.
Hmm.
10 years.
Mm. Well, I love that even
Yeah.
more.
And if it was like if somebody did like request a quote, filled out the little thing online, and I reached out, they probably never got back to me. That's what I mean by that. Not that no
Okay.
one ever came across my website, but they were looking for, can I get it? They were looking for Google. How much will it cost from XYZ? Blah, 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 blah. That's not how I operate.
Okay.
Um,
How much
and
would you say are people coming to you through some sort of referral from LinkedIn versus a content piece that you put out there on LinkedIn?
it's all relationship,
Okay.
whether it was a past client or just somebody who I knew from other networks
Okay.
or that kind of thing. Or somebody said, hey, I have a question about, and they say, oh, you should talk to Amy, right? Like, and then maybe we DM a little bit or something.
Okay.
Um, yeah. And in travel, for I don't know if you have newer travel folks
Hmm.
listening
A mix.
in travel, you have to, if you're newer to the game, you have to be so careful. For those who don't know, travel is the highest charged back industry in credit.
Mm.
People will actually like, and that's, so working with cold leads or cold calls,
Hmm.
um, I am very leery of that. We have very stringent, at least in our agency, we have
Right.
very stringent. We don't take anything without a face to face. I need to see your face and your ID and your
Right.
credit card. And I know so many people who were like, oh, they want to put, okay, great. And they'll do it over the phone or whatever. If you don't know that person,
Hmm.
yeah, even when it's like Rita's best friend called and
Right.
says, I'm like, great, we need to get on a FaceTime or a Zoom because I need to verify your name and your address and where you look, what you look like, and
Right.
all of it.
Well, and
Because
that's a really great point too about vetting people. But I think that's also something that's very high in correlation with seller of travel laws. And I feel like some people think that they just exist, but they're really in there to protect the consumer
not us.
because not only can we get scammed as travel advisors, but consumers are highly scammed out, sending payment to somebody they thought was booking a trip, and then that didn't happen.
Right. But that's exactly, it's the highest, and luckily it hasn't happened to us, but other agency
Hmm.
owners and other people in there. Yeah.
You hear it a lot, especially I'm in Florida, and
Yeah.
that's why there's very strict laws here in
Right. And that's the
Florida.
thing too. Like, yeah, there's seller of travel laws, but only in, what are we at? 7 states? That's
Ooh,
not our travel
I
laws.
don't, I think you have to be licensed in 4 states.
Right.
And I think there's certain
Oh,
legalities
the
in
other,
maybe a couple other
right.
handful of
That's what I'm saying.
states.
It's wide open.
Yeah.
It's, yeah. So that's just something for people to be aware of. There's obviously a place for, there's a difference between brand awareness,
Mm-hmm.
marketing, and
Mm-hmm.
like client gaining clients.
Yeah. That's, I
Those are
would say
not the
it's the
same.
different,
Yeah, those are not the same thing. So
right.
yes, you want to be out and available and doing things for that brand awareness. But yeah, just like I said, we've and that's so people, oh, you should do that, you should, place ads, do that, whatever. And I know many successful advisors who do that. And that's
Right.
great. I chose not to do that. I chose
Right.
to take a very much more niched approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And I love it. I'm all about relationships and building the relationships because I feel like it takes time, but that I think helps grow you farther without having to financially spend that much. You're going to be spending a lot of time, but without having to put like that money investment in. And it's just, for me, it's fun. I love getting to know other people and what they do and who they are within their own business or community.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it just shows there's so many different ways, like you're always highlighting, to approach
Hmm.
a travel business. And part of why I no longer, I don't know if you can tell, if you see my background, like it's all Disney, all Harry Potter, I am very theme park,
Yes.
um, you know, high level planner
Right.
for all things Disney and families. But I don't talk about that much
Right.
in any of my stuff because not for God love us all. Disney planners are a dime a dozen. How do you stand
Right.
out in that
Right.
field and that whatever? So that's what you have to do, is how you've got to think of, who do you really want to work with?
Right.
What are your goals around that?
Yeah, because I think that's when you're trying to look for a niche, like that's the intersection of what do you want to sell and who do you want to serve. And I feel like that's the perfect combo of whatever your niche is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's, like I said, and that's how it evolved to being really working with kind of those entrepreneurs and small to mid-sized businesses that don't have that corporate membership, right, to the corporate
Hmm.
travel bank,
Right.
and don't have that membership and that support, but but traveling, networking, and going out and doing all these things is such a huge piece of their business,
Right.
how they're growing their business. So
Yes.
yeah, we take that off their plate. Like you say, we take that off their plate and they're able to
Hmm.
focus more on their actual clients and their business.
Yes. No, thank you so much for coming on. I think we hear so much on the leisure side of things that, if for me at least, it's definitely refreshing to hear how you are doing almost like a B2B travel business and the different things that have been successful for you throughout the years, but especially this past couple of years where you've been really focusing on the retreat. So thank you for sharing.
Of course, I always love chatting with you.
Yeah. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they find you on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, it's Amy Flores Young, and like we said, known as FloYo.
Hmm.
So it's floyotravel.com, but it's Amy Flores Young is my profile name.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy. And thank you so much, listeners, for tuning in. I hope that this episode was super helpful to you. And I'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Remember to check out the show notes for all relevant links and resources from today's show. See you next time.